This episode is going to be upgrading our EMC farm one final time to supply both our HV solar array factory as well as myself with EMC. So I just finished my HV solar array factory, and this chest here I keep having to put EMC inside to make diamond blocks. Obviously I don't want to do that forever, so we are going to extend this floor almost all the way across. We're going to make it look like the floor below, and then from there we are going to build a massive EMC farm on it. So let's get to it. Alright, the floor is done. Now we are going to need a ton of rotary macerators for our factory. The problem is these are an absolute pain to make. They need obsidian blades, which need a ton of obsidian dust to make. So what we are going to do is use the old EMC farm that has a ton of rotary macerators in it and switch it over to a obsidian dust farm so that I don't have to craft this all myself. So away we go. So this is the old EMC farm. You can see I've actually stolen a bunch of rotary macerators already for my HV solar array factory. But it is still working in its current form. And you can see it's made, oh geez, I don't know, like over probably 1 billion EMC in here. So I'm going to do my best. I'm not sure how I set these up. Okay, perfect. I didn't actually whitelist and blacklist blaze powder and blaze rods, so this should be fairly straightforward to switch over. I hope that turns out to be the case. Alright, I took all the blaze rods and blaze powder out of the system, and I changed the request on these pipes to coal dust. So if I put coal in here with some EMC, it should just output coal everywhere, and then send all the coal dust. Wait, I need obsidian. I'm an idiot. Well, we made a ton of coal dust that I have absolutely no use for at the moment. But now that I've removed all the coal from the system, we have a bunch of obsidian. So if I put these stockkeeper chips that are requesting obsidian dust, 1, 2, 3, now we should just be getting a ton of obsidian dust. And there we go, just getting 2 stacks at a time in each chest. So this will be way faster than crafting them ourselves, and now we can go ahead and craft the obsidian blades. And then we can go ahead and craft a ton of rotary macerators. And of course I will deconstruct this and take these macerators as well. Alright, I've got 65 rotary macerators. Now I just gotta figure out if this is enough. It probably isn't, but I need a design first before I know how many I'll need. And I want to change it from last time because last time was not perfect. So this time, gonna be better. Well, surprise, surprise, 1 stack of macerators was not enough. But regardless, this is the design I have decided on. Here you've got a chest making blaze rods, and the pipe is 1 item responder chip, which is these settings, so it has whitelisted blaze powder, so the blaze powder is always being sent here and requested. The other chip is a item extractor chip, so it'll pull out blaze rods forever because blaze rods are whitelisted here, and it'll always look for somewhere to put them. So blaze powder gets sent in, blaze rods get sent out. All of these macerators are programmed the exact same. An extractor chip, whitelisted blaze powder, so blaze powder is pulled out of them once it's made. You can see it gets made and then pulled out. And an item responder chip for whitelisted blaze rods. So all blaze rods in the network If they don't have anywhere to go, they will go into each of these. So this chest is sending out blaze rods, it's going into all these macerators, and the macerators are sending back blaze powder. Blaze powder is coming back in here, getting turned into more blaze rods. If the blaze rods have nowhere to go, I have this here, which is an overflow responder chip. So if there's nowhere to put it in the system, it'll go here, and then it'll get turned into red matter. Pretty straightforward. Works pretty easily. This setup here, just with this chest and the chips in the interface pipe, will work for almost any size. If obviously you have less macerators, you can do all the way down to 1 if you want to. And I did have earlier, I was going to do it 7x7, so out here, but it gets pretty glitchy once you go above 40 macerators in one network. What happened was all the blaze rods kind of got stuck in random pipes, and then they would never make it to this chest to make EMC. But it was still running, so when I destroyed the entire thing, blaze rods just went everywhere and they were just stuck in the pipes somehow. So I wouldn't recommend going much bigger than the 5x5. 6x6 might be alright, but definitely not too far above that. But again, you can just go any size lower if you're just trying to make a simple farm. So you can see I've outlined all these glass fiber cables here, so I will put this design on every single one and then output them all into one chest. I just gotta make a bunch more macerators. Unfortunately, I had to change the design just a little since the other design with a extractor chip to pull out the blaze rods. For some reason, the blaze rods just get absolutely stuck in here. I thought it only happened with a 7x7 size, but it also happens with 5x5 and probably any size just because of the amount of blaze rods that are coming out. And normally they should be picked up by a stock overflow chip, but they just don't for some reason, so I had to change that completely just to make sure it wouldn't happen again. So on the left side here, so I changed a couple things. The chest will intake on one side and output on the other, and I also changed what type of chip it was. So the blaze powder is done the exact same. Item responder chip in the chest with the same settings. It says preference 1, preference 0 is fine too. There's only one item responder chip. And then for these, there's still an item extractor chip with the same settings, whitelist blaze powder, extract from the east. So the blaze powder is done the same. The difference is I don't export in the same pipe. I export from the other side, which also looks a lot cooler. But I have a item broadcaster chip, which tells the entire network what is in this chest. And this one is important that it's preference 1 because I have another item broadcast chip here that's preference 0. So the preference 1 will have higher preference because it's a higher number than the preference 0. So the blaze rods will first see if there's anywhere in this network here where they can go, and if not, the preference 0 will take them and put them and turn them into EMC. But if there is somewhere for them to go, this chip will broadcast them and they will go into any of these which have item stock keeper chips, which are just fill infinitely blaze rods. And the reason the stock keeper chips are much better than the previous setup, which was these guys, the item responder chip with the extractor chip, which is what I had before for the blaze rods, it'll send the blaze rods anywhere it can at any time, and if it finds somewhere along the way to where it's going, it'll drop them off there if it's allowed to. Otherwise it'll keep going, and it'll drop it off anywhere. And I think what was happening was they'd drop off a bunch of places they weren't supposed to. It would pull way more blaze rods out than it could fit in the network. It wouldn't just pull the ones it needed, so they would get stuck everywhere, and it lags your game to crap, and it was just not enjoyable. So this setup with a broadcaster chip for the blaze rods instead of a extractor chip, and with the stock keeper chips instead of the item responder chips, works way better. This causes very minimal lag, and you actually get your EMC out when you're supposed to, and turns into other things. So I did go ahead and build a ton of macerators. I built 300. There's 300 macerators here. So now I just need to set all of them up with these chips. So I gotta craft a bunch more chips, and then hook all the exports out, and we should be pretty much done. So I will get to that. So I have finished building everything. I have placed all the chips in all of the interface pipes. I placed the crafting recipe for blaze rods and energy condensers in all of them. The reason I have energy condensers as my EMC that I'm turning things into is that in my transmutation table, that is the highest EMC item I have that is stackable. So I can store the most EMC in one chest. I have it all hooked up to go into here. This is just from just that one that is running. But before I could turn all 300 machines on, I have to set up some better power to it. For those who do not know, which is probably most people, because I didn't until I looked it up, each advanced machine like this is a rotary macerator, at 100% speed takes 16 EU per tick. And an MFSU like this one outputs 500 EU per tick pretty much. So 16 times 300 is 4800, so if I have 10 MFSUs outputting 500 each, that's about 5000. So that's more than 4800, and that should be good. But of course these MFSUs output HV, so we'll have to do the same thing we do here, which is convert to medium voltage and then convert to low voltage. So we will need 10 of these, and then we will need 40 of these. So I'll set that up and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Alright, this is what this abomination looks like. It won't really be seen under all the stuff on the bottom floor, but we've got our 10 MFSUs here, outputting 512. All of these medium voltage convert that into 4 strands of 128, and then all 40 of these convert the 128 into 4 strands of 32, and 32 is the maximum size a machine can take. So if we measure this, we are currently using 400, which is exactly 25 by 16, so that's good. So now we're ready to turn these all on and hope they work. Here we go. There's one. Let's see if that's outputting. Okay, we're good. Might as well just do them all since they take a little time to update. Not sure how laggy this will be, hopefully not too bad. Put that away, we'll keep the EU reader. So all of those should be starting up. This one is not. Preference 1. 4.0, okay, it's going. Just need a little more warming up than the other guy. It's all good. So these will take a while to get to full speed, like this one. These are all at 100 speed. These guys are just starting, so they will take a little while to get to 100. They will continue to rise as long as there's something inside of them. So I will wait that out myself and use some editing skills. Well, everything is running now and working well. One problem I did run into somehow is I ran out of power. Down here I only had this side and it looked a little different. And it's still, I tried to fix it by splitting up the transformers. It did not work, so I went ahead and just doubled it. So I doubled the power I had before, and now I have plenty of power. I'm sure I got more power than I need, but either way it's working. You can see it looks pretty nice. All these macerators working. Everything's at 100% now. These are all working exactly as designed. Yeah, I don't know, it feels pretty nice. It looks pretty cool. It doesn't hurt the frames too bad. Game still runs fine. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. So I like it. I like it. The last thing I gotta do now is just see how much EMC it actually makes. So I will let it run for 10 minutes or so, and then I will tell you guys how much it makes in a minute. Or 10 minutes, or both. So let me do that. Alright, after the 10 minutes I waited, I got 23 Mark II energy condensers, which as you can see here is 224 million EMC, which means every minute I'm getting just about 22 million EMC, which is just under 3,000 diamonds every minute. So about 15 times better than my last design. And of course this one takes up less room per macerator because I don't need the redstone blocks. This will probably be my last design for an EMC farm because I won't really need more than 22 million EMC per minute. I will actually probably let this chest fill up and then turn all these off until I use a bunch of EMC. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Shout out to all my subscribers. I think I'm up to 14 now. That is awesome. Thanks guys, and I will see you in the next one.